Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
And welcome to the only podcast brave enough to stand firm to their beliefs. I am David, and I stand like a tree by the river of truth. And with me is our favorite web-headed from Queens, Joe.
What's up, guys?
Oh, that's a good one. This is episode 52, and in this show we will discuss the showrunners of Game of Thrones are getting a Star Wars trilogy. How many trilogies is Star Wars getting? Westworld Season 2 trailer drops. You want our impressions? Here they come. New Deadpool 2 trailer. Yep. We're going to talk about it. Big ol' yep. Sony's Venom gets a trailer. Well, sort of. We'll discuss. And then the film I never thought I would see. Joe and I discuss Captain America Civil War. How are you, sir?
I am good, my friend. How are you doing?
I am.
We'll do it live!
I'm doing good. All kidding aside, I'm doing good. I'm kind of both happy and sad to be coming to this movie today, to be perfectly honest with you. Happy because, it caps the Cap series. It caps the Cap series, and I'm glad that we've gotten them all done, but now I kind of feel like, it's like the first time you have a steak, You can never recreate that first moment when you realize steak is for me. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I take comfort in the fact that I think as great as this is, we're still springboarding into something even bigger.
Look at this world. This beautiful world. We built this world together. A world where dreams come true. A world where you can be free. But this world is a lie.
Westworld Season 2. A Super Bowl trailer followed by a longer trailer. So, the running of the bulls inside the facility. What do you think?
The bull in a china shop. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, I like it. It doesn't tell you much. It doesn't, I didn't find this to be like a spoilerish kind of a trailer at all, frankly. Just gives you a sense of what's coming. And I'm looking forward to it. And incidentally, by the way, it did drop some hints that the Westworld is going to expand the way the film did, the original film.
Yep.
Which I think is kind of cool. Like the original film was a Roman world, and what was the other world? Something else.
It had Roman world. It had oh goodness Christ! It's been so long since I've seen it.
Was it no.
It wasn't like a Japan world. You had a West world, you had a Roman world.
Oh, yeah. Was it Samurai World or something?
Well, that's the one that they're talking about coming in the series. I didn't realize that, there was one in the original movie.
The original movie, I'm pretty sure if I remember right, had 3 different worlds, and Westworld was just one of them.
Right.
So I kind of liked that they might be venturing into that this season. I mean, I'm curious to see where that goes.
Oh, yeah. I found myself very excited by the trailer. I mean, but we've gushed over the first season, very much so, and we were both on the same page with where we think it may or may not be going, but we're not 100% sure. So we're kind of like, I don't know. They kind of preserved a little bit of what the original Westworld movie was, but with their own little twang to it, and I think took it into a whole other direction, which for modern sci-fi I think works.
I completely agree. It's really is. That season was honestly, I mean, there's been some really great, smart sci-fi recently, and I think this, frankly, ranks up there among the best. And it's nice because we've spoken before about doing a long-form movie, as opposed to just a regular 2-hour film.
Right.
This has that luxury that it gets to explore different avenues. And for the thought-provoking philosophical science fiction, this really lends itself. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the first season. I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Oh, guys, please don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up.
What's the most pain you've ever felt? Maybe the kind that leaves you more machine than man.
Wait, no, stop! What in the actual ass? Dale, why are the visual effects not done? It's a metal arm. It's not like we're trying to remove a mustache. Ah, fuck it. I'll do it myself.
I'm Cable, and I'm from the future, and I like blowing shit up.
Pew, 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 pew.
So, it seems that Deadpool can't not break the fourth wall, even in his damn trailers.
And it's right at the moment too. Like you're totally into it, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is looking great!" And all of a sudden, it's like the record skips.
Wait, where's his metal arm? You haven't added his metal arm?
I'll do this myself, and then they just bust out the toys. I mean, oh my god, you can't, it really, I tell you, this, not for nothing, but I kind of feel like the beauty of this. It's one character, so I don't know if franchise is the right word. But honestly, I mean, just between the original Deadpool, the little things we've seen in between, there was like that original teaser where he's in the phone booth getting changed, then another teaser later on where he's with the painting, and now this one, it's like they really do keep an extremely consistent tone.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny throughout, and it at no point does it seems like I guess it sort of has the luxury. It's smart enough when you're breaking the fourth wall, and I guess to some degree you're just going to let Ryan Reynolds go a little crazy or whatever. It's like I'm not sure what the secret sauce is exactly, but somehow they've managed to keep the same tone throughout everything we've seen so far, and I really find that to be pretty impressive.
And that's with a whole new director. I mean, everything about it.
Good point.
It makes it obvious that this is, and I don't want to bag on the first director by any stretch of the imagination because he did a phenomenal job. But it makes it seem to me, at least, that this is more a Ryan Reynolds picture that he's hired a crew to do the heavy lifting, and as much as anybody else. The new director is David Leitch, for example, and I sincerely doubt you can really say for sure that he's had more than just, okay, put a camera here, action.
Yeah. And I tell you, if that's true, that really says something for Ryan Reynolds. I mean, if that is the case, not only does it mean that he sort of has the ability to write and direct and star in this series, but he's also smart enough to hand off certain things and delegate certain responsibilities and let other people do, like you said, the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, Ryan Reynolds, he might go down in history as like I might have to eat my hat when it comes to Ryan Reynolds because I've never really understood the fascination or why. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, he's mildly funny, whatever. Put him in rom-coms and fine. I'm really seeing another side of him, a very capable side of him, and I'm like I said, I might have to just eat crow and say, Ryan Reynolds, I had you all wrong, buddy. I really had you all wrong.
Excellent. Order 66 was a complete success.
My master, what were the first 65 orders?
I'm glad you asked. Oh, capture me a Wookiee, kick a princess in the cookie, sabotage the espionage of a Bothan spy, activate the trash compactor, let's protect the main reactor, stab a smuggler in the jugular and watch him die. Corrupt a teen from Tatooine, manipulate a Gungan and kill Naboo's queen, trap him on calamari, take a tot on hot safari, hit a topless bar on Mustafar with artist Ralph McQuarrie. Oh, number 13, find investors. Number 14, make a Death Star. While you're at it, draw some plans up for my Death Star 2. Unmask a dirty Jawa, recall General Dodonna, clone a load of cannon fodder out on Camino. You know what? I'll just email you a PDF or something.
If you don't have the time, then whenever you get around to it.
Okay, maybe you can help me try to figure this out. Rian Johnson does The Last Jedi, obviously gives many Lucasfilm and potentially Disney executives enough to say to him, go, have a trilogy of your own. Write something in a trilogy. And now, all of a sudden, we're hearing that the guys who brought us Game of Thrones are getting their own trilogy. What the hell is going on here?
I think Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm has more or less taken the mantle away from the DCEU and run as the worst dumpster fire going right now. I don't know. I don't know, and it seems like even the projects that were in the works, I thought we had a Ben Kenobi standalone.
Yeah, that was being talked about.
I thought that was as good as done, and then suddenly that's gone, but now we've got a trilogy with Rian Johnson, another trilogy with the Game of Thrones guys, and I can't even keep track of the new stuff that they're just sort of throwing at the wall now to see what sticks. By the way, before I even get rolling, did you see the how it should have ended about The Last Jedi? Boy, did they nail everything perfectly.
Oh, certainly they did. Certainly they did. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see what Joe and I really think, how we think The Last Jedi should have gone, just watch how it should have ended for Star Wars The Last Jedi. That's it right there.
I hire those guys. They know how to do it.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, at one point I'm watching their ending, their climax, and I started to get like just super duper into it, and forgetting this was supposed to be a joke. Like this is supposed to be like these are supposed to be funny. They're just fixing the movie. Like they really just fixed it. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. So anyway, but yeah, dude, I can't keep track of what's going on over there, and honestly, I don't know. If I would be very surprised if they are really going to do 2 Star Wars trilogies on top of each other. If I had to take a guess, and I predicted this a few weeks ago, and I'm sticking by it, I think they're going to take it from Rian Johnson and hand it over to these guys.
Really?
Yeah.
This is your feeling.
I absolutely. Like I said, I said a few weeks ago, and with the not only did it tank in China, but they actually just pulled it early and just took their ball and went home. Like I said, there's toys collecting dust on shelves in toy stores right now. No one is buying the toys from The Last Jedi. No one is on board with it. I mean, there's a few. Like, I know the critics loved it, but the people just didn't go to it. They just didn't buy it. If they really go forward with a Rian Johnson trilogy, I'll eat my hat. I can't see how they're going to do it. In fact, I mean, I'm already hearing unsubstantiated rumors that's already done. But again, like I said, I can't figure out what's going on over at Lucasfilm. So I'm not. If they go forward with the Rian Johnson trilogy, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it would be the dumbest thing in the world. And again, to have another trilogy alongside it, that does not make any sense.
Oh yeah, it does. So, I've totally got. I figured it out. They want 2 sets of trilogies so they can have a Star Wars movie every year to go cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Yeah, but that's fine. And frankly, like I said, if you asked me a year ago, I would have said, hey, more power to them. Let's do it. But doing it as trilogies with the standalones, I thought made some sense. But to have 2 storylines that you have to sort of follow doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't see how that would work. It's almost like having I mean, I don't know, not in the cinematic world. Like if you tried let's say the Stranger Things, they tried to do they dipped their toe in trying a pilot episode for another offshoot. Let's say that had happened, and you had Stranger Things over here, and then sort of a sideline Stranger Things. As a television show, I could sort of see it. Right. As a film series, I really can't see 2 side by side competing basically storylines, and and it would be sort of competing because again, you I guess if one performs better than the other one, they'll start pumping out more toys over on this side than that side, or I don't know. I see it as just too convoluted to try to do simultaneous storylines. So I'm predicting if the Game of Thrones guys get it, Rian Johnson's done.
All right.
If he's not done already.
I don't think he's done. I'm not saying I don't want. I honestly don't know how.
Because Kathleen likes him. Because Kathleen likes him is why you're saying that he's probably not done, and that I agree with. But like I said, the mouse is going to come down off the hill and say, "What are you guys doing down here?" And if, like I said, Kathleen, get your ducks in a row, or we're going to straighten them out for you.
You don't talk to me like that, you little piece of shit. Get the up. Get the up.
Disney's not going to sit here and watch this property that they spend billions on. They're not going to stand by and watch it lose money.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I guess we won't know we're not going to know for a while because, of course, you know.
Solo?
Yeah. I probably, if any major things happens, it's going to be after Solo. You mark my word on that.
I agree. Yeah, I'll agree with that. So we'll see.
Everyone's got their thing. Maybe it's a breakup, a death, an accident.
All right. So,
let's talk about it.
I don't know what there is to talk about. I looked like I saw a commercial for a sequel to The Ring or something.
Right.
with nothing horrifying.
Yeah.
You know? Anybody remember that movie Jurassic Park, 1993? Remember that part where Jeff Goldblum looks into the camera and says, "So, are you planning on having any dinosaurs in this dinosaur park? Are you planning on having any Venom in this Venom movie?"
This trailer, I watched it at least twice, and honest to God, ask me now what I remember from it. I don't remember anything except that last shot of him just going berserk. Which, of course, as soon as I saw it, I said, there's going to be memes coming out all over the place for this, and I've already seen like a dozen floating around. It looks ridiculous, and I don't get... Basically, it's, as far as I'm concerned right now, this is shaping up to be Catwoman. It's somewhere in between Catwoman and Fan Four Stick. Like that's sort of where I see this sitting right now, and I see this as being just a mess of nothing. The last shot, you barely see a tiny trace of the little black lines coming up his neck. Right. But it looks... The gist I'm getting is that it's under his skin as opposed to over his skin. I can't tell.
You'd have to get me to care first to actually...
Well, there's that too.
You'd have to get me to care first. I watched the trailer. I'm like, okay, let's see what Sony can do when they have nothing better to do with themselves. Oh, yeah. Look at that. They're not doing jack or shit.
Oof. This was pretty. This was, again, they gave you so little, it's hard to even pass judgment on it. But the fact that they didn't give you anything that you said, oh, I got to see that. I mean, seriously, I can't remember anything about this trailer. It's him doing something, and at the end, I guess they allude to the idea that he had an injury and the symbiote is somehow supposed to fix it. I guess they're going to use it as a way to repair him. So this is almost like Bill Bixby's Incredible Hulk origin story.
Oh, I wonder if his eyes will go black just before he gets the suit on.
Probably, or
something like that, or maybe they'll just go full white. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like this is a non-conversation, which is fine because this is a non-trailer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
This is just them saying, "Look, we've got this coming. It's coming October."
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like if this trailer proves anything, it just proves that it exists. Because if you asked me a couple months ago, honestly, I think I might have even said on the podcast, "There's not going to be a Venom movie." I mean, it just sounded so out there at the time. I'm like, no, they're not going to go through with it. So the fact that something is actually on screen, I'm like, all right, I guess there is. I guess they're actually doing this. So again, we'll see. I'm not predicting anything good.
Buck, do you remember me?
Your mom's name was Sarah. You used to wear newspapers in your shoes.
You're a wanted man.
I don't do that anymore.
Well, the people who think you did are coming right now. And they're not planning on taking you alive.
Political involvement in the Avengers' activities causes a rift between Captain America and Iron Man. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, based on characters created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain America: Civil War.
I'm going to say it now. I'm very, very curious to see how you score this one. Because after last week, and because personally, I probably like a lot of people, but I find myself going round and round a lot about which one I think is the better film, The Winter Soldier or Civil War, because they're different, but boy, not one of them, as far as I'm concerned, misses a beat, pulls a punch. It delivers on all four cylinders. It's a tremendous film. So I'm curious to see where we end up on this.
I will tell you, I had a very difficult time going back and forth between which one of these I liked best, Winter Soldier or Civil War. I honestly, as far as I'm concerned, these are the two strongest Marvel movies maybe ever, easily ever. I mean, and this is not even, I can't even really think of this. I mean, the only reason it's truly a Captain America movie is because it really does center around Bucky, because he's the linchpin in the entire story, if you think about it. So,
yeah, I'll agree with that. It is Bucky is the linchpin, and I have had the same thought too. Like, is this really a Captain America film? But it is. It does. I mean, it absolutely takes the events of Winter Soldier to the next step. This is the next logical step.
But not just the Winter Soldiers. It's also the entire MCU is put on trial in this movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it does. You know, it does blur the line between being a Captain America film and an Avengers film.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And I guess at this stage of the game, that makes sense because, you know, Captain America is Captain America without being part of the Avengers at this point. It's almost like it would be harder to try to extrapolate him out to do, because again, now that we've got the Avengers, now that we have this vast universe, you know, one of the things that people are always saying is like, well, how come none of the other Avengers helped out in this standalone film? Like, it's almost like you have to sort of figure out a way to pry one superhero out of the group to give him a standalone film, you know, without involving the other characters. So it makes perfect sense that it would be that the Avengers would be so immersed in his story at this point. But it is still a story about Captain America making the right decisions, doing what he feels is right. And again, that is the theme from, you said it last week, the theme that permeates the whole Captain America series is Captain America having to either take the easy way out or to make the tough decisions that he knows is right. I think the temptation is even greater in this one than the last one. The last one, I think, like, he knew something was wrong. He knew something wasn't right. And, you know, the fact that Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, like, that was you could definitely see, look, he was right. He was right not to go along because this was what was happening.
Right.
In Civil War, even at the end of the day, you may know that the Winter Soldier was brainwashed, but you still don't. There still is no firm answer as to what is right with regard to the Sokovia Accords. Sokovia Accords. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. You know, this is the beauty of this trilogy, because if you think about it, each film informed on the character of Captain America and got him to the point where he would say, no, sorry, we can't have oversight. Which is basically, when you break it down to it, it's hysterically ironic that the way the original trilogy for Iron Man went was, I am the standalone guy, screw society, screw authority, blah, 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 and suddenly his arc took him to the point where, you know what, maybe we need some accountability. And here we have Captain America, the soldier, you follow orders, you do what they tell you to, blah, 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 right up to the point of, you know what, accountability has not been so great to me in the past. It's time we should try this. How freaking awesome is that?
That you're absolutely, we are 1,000% correct, and that to me is the amazing part of this film. Is that they I mean, it's hard enough for a regular film to give you two motivations that you believe that when the conflict comes, you know, you just get a believable conflict. Here, not only do you get wildly understandable motivations, but they're motivations that have done, you know, twists and turns in 180 degrees to become polar opposites. I mean, you're absolutely right. They two journeys that took them on a roundabout sideways journey that we were there for the entire time, and they come together perfectly. Yeah. To the point where you really are kind of like, wow, how did this happen? But you saw it happen.
This is why when people try to tell me, when there are people that try to tell me that, oh, Batman versus Superman is much better than Civil War. It's like, are you insane?
Oh my God.
It's like, what crack are you smoking? Never give it to me, because I don't think I can afford to lose the brain cells that you must have lost if you think that movie is better than this movie. Okay? Because here's the main difference, okay? I'm a Batman fan. I want to cheer on for Batman. I couldn't cheer Batman in Batman v Superman. I couldn't, because he was kind of being a sanctimonious dick.
Yeah.
And you couldn't cheer Superman because he's a mopey little bastard who's like, I want to be the only game in town. That's at least how it was presented to us when we saw that movie, that he was just like, no, you stop being the Batman. I don't like you, or something like that. And what do we have here? Yeah. We have two beloved characters, two characters who truly are the heart and soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, going at odds with each other. And I read the original comic book. If you read the original comic book, you would never go for Tony's side. Never. He was a complete jerk throughout the entire series. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you even think of following Iron Man in this one? And that was one of the worries I thought about when they first announced the movie. It's like, well, how are they going to do this? Because Tony was a real... Holy smokes, did they balance it so perfectly. And the balance was 100% based on everything that had came before. This wasn't like just some left field turn, and it's like, oh my God, he punched that poor old woman. God darn him, I'm going against him now, or something like that. Wasn't anything like that. Totally earned. And, oh my God... Don't come to me with this. Do not come to me with it. I don't care how cool the fight scene between Batman v Superman was. It doesn't beat the airport scene at all. Because every single punch in that airport scene hurts.
Yep. Yeah. I'll take that airport scene over 3 hours of Batman v Superman any day. Their best moments in Batman v Superman can't hold a candle to that airport scene.
How can you dislike this? Even the people that didn't like the Civil War comic like this, because they all realized that the Civil War comic, which this was based on, actually did have a couple of weaknesses. One of the biggest weaknesses was Tony's complete dickery. There's just no way of putting it. He just became a complete dick and did really, really stupid things. So you couldn't help but be on Captain America's side. And I went into this movie being like, I'm just going to be on Cap's side. And as the movie went along, it's like, I can't decide. They're both right.
Yeah.
They're both 100% right. And that's what a film is supposed to be. It's not supposed to preach to you. It's supposed to say, no, sometimes there are moments where things just don't always work out all happy and stuff like that. And not everything can you come to an agreement on.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I mean, and again, the way they, not to skip ahead, but the way they keep it going beyond the initial... the initial conflicts. I mean, it's frankly, it really is absolutely amazing, and it just so well done. I mean, put it this way: when you get to the end, when they capture Zemo, right, and the guy says to him at the end, he goes, "Well, how do you feel now that your stupid plan completely failed?" And Zemo looks back and he's like, "Did it?"
Yeah.
Boom. There you go. Right there. There you go.
Can we start right there for a second? I want to call out Mr. Daniel Brohl in his performance as Zemo.
Mm-hmm.
Can we call that out? Because holy smokes, to date he's become like my favorite Marvel villain, because he won. He's the first Marvel villain that ever won, and he did it with guile, with intrigue, with spycraft, and he did it with such charm.
That is an very interesting point. Yeah, for a villain who is, as far as like general showmanship is concerned, probably not one that would even show up on the radar. But you know what? His plan worked.
Yeah,
he had a plan. He saw it through, and he fractured, if not broke, the Avengers.
Yep,
single-handedly.
What I loved was little subtle things about the character, like when we first meet him, when after going through boom, Siberia, and then boom, Lagos, and then boom, Cleveland. Which, by the way, I love that. I laugh every time I see it. I still giggle my little head off. And yet, who would have thought that of all things, Cleveland would be the one place you really got to worry about? When he goes to the old the Russian soldier's house, and he digs out the book and stuff like that, and he's asking mission report, December 16th, 1991, and he's like, I need information from you. I can get it from this book, but it would be much bloodier. All right? Those type of subtle things is what I loved about the Zemo character. Because it told you so much. It's like, okay, his whole plan is he knows that the Winter Soldier killed Tony's parents. He absolutely knows at this point. What he's seeking is the evidence to give to Stark to cause the fracture. That's what this is all about. Okay?
Yeah.
But we don't know that at the time because we're thinking, the way the movie goes, and this is another brilliant little piece about the movie, because it makes you believe that he's going after the additional Winter Soldiers that they built in that Siberian place. Which for the Zemo from the comic, that would kind of make sense. I'm going to get my own Winter Soldiers and make them my own blah 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 until they pull the rug out from under you at the end.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I'm giving credit to the actor because he understated it. He played it very well, and he even had this level of menace to him, like that point right near the end, just before he completely shatters Tony and Steve, where Captain America is facing him off. He's in that bulletproof room, and he's like, now that I look at you up close, you have a little green in your eyes. How nice to find a flaw. I love that. I was like, oh my God. I love the little beats about it. I love the way he played it. So yes, as far as I'm concerned, to me, Zemo is the best villain in the in the Marvel universe right now, simply because he won.
It's a great point. And like you said, story-wise, that twist at the end, wow. Like you said, they have you lined up to think that he's going to go fight all the other Winter Soldiers, but nope. Because and frankly, again, if this was a DC movie, that's exactly what would have happened. Exactly. Just paint by numbers. Here's the next step, and here's what we do. This twist where it suddenly became a personal fight. Oh my God! And I remember when I first saw it in the theater. By the way, and I think I mentioned this. Our very first episode was my top 10, and this was I think this was my number 2. I remember. When we got to the end, when we end up at the where the other Winter Soldiers are
in Siberia, yep.
I remember at that point it was almost like I'd completely forgotten that there was still more fight coming. So by the time that twist came, I mean, I was just so taken by surprise. I did not see that coming. The fact that the Winter Soldier had killed Tony's parents and Tony was going to find out about it, and that this fight was going to get so personal. I mean, it was like, oh my God, like I really did not expect that at that point. I completely forgot about it. I mean, and the brilliance too, by the way, another one who needs a lot of props, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh God, yes.
For a guy who has been playing Tony Stark as this fun playboy who's always fun and he's quippy and yada yada and capable of learning lessons here and there or whatever, but still being just a overall nice jovial kind of guy. He's run through the ringer in this film. Like you watch him from the beginning, like he gets to the point where he the movie opens up on his childhood angst. He lost his parents and yada yada yada. I wish it happened a different way, but this is how it happened. Bring in the fact that Pepper's gone, and then he has the hallway confrontation with the lady about the son who died in Sokovia. I mean, so already he's off, like he's stressed. He's really stressed. And then when you see him later, like I think the next time you see him is when General Ross shows up with the Sokovia Accords, and there's Tony just sort of sitting back in the corner, uncharacteristically quiet. And
to the point that even the widow pointed it out. Yeah.
Yes, and I love. There's a great shot. I loved. Oh my God! I mean, this such a great shot when Cap is sitting at the table and he's listening, and at one point he turns his head and he looks back to see Tony, because like you see it sort of dawn on him, like I haven't heard out of Tony yet. Yeah. He's oddly quiet and he seems kind of on board with this. Like what I mean, like he looks back to look at him, and they kind of make eye contact for a second. Tony looks down, and he's realizing like Tony's on board with this.
Captain, while a great many people see you as a hero, there are some who'd prefer the word vigilante. You've operated with unlimited power and no supervision. That's something the world can no longer tolerate.
Meanwhile, you see Tony sitting there. The tie is undone. He's just sitting there kind of, again, like just not his usual peppy self at all. You know, you can see the things going on in his head. So, and then this goes on and on. Like, this gets worse and worse as things progress. Like, you see him getting more, at one point, you know, he says, he's yelling at Cap at one point. He's like, I'm trying to save you from tearing the Avengers apart. You know, like, he's totally stressed out.
Yep.
You know, like he's like his last nerve is shot. And so when the end comes, like when like you just see the snap. You know, like that is a man who that was like the last thing, whatever he had left, done. He is snapped. I mean, and even when Cap says something to him and he goes, I don't care. He killed my mom.
My mother. Yep.
That's it. That is it. Forget it. And he's done, and he's done trying to patch things up, and it's over. You know what I mean?
Yep. He played the game. He tried, and this was just the final straw that broke him.
Yeah. And boy, does Robert Downey show that very well. I mean, you see the difference, and does he do a great job with it.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, even the scene where he asks the Winter Soldier, "Do you even remember their faces?"
Right,
you know?
right.
And ladies, you got to understand the way that they film those scenes. He's basically standing in a room where the lights are low and the camera is basically inches from his face. He's not even in the same vicinity as Sebastian Stan when that scene is being shot. Okay? And his delivery is just, oh God, like this rage, but like almost like trying to contain the rage, but not really succeeding type way of delivery. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just, oh God, chills.
Yeah, I mean, this is Captain America's movie, but I really got to give it to Robert Downey because he is the catalyst. I mean, as much as Bucky is, you know, and again, the brilliance of the story is seeing, you know, Cap being torn between Tony and Bucky, and you know, and the great line. I mean, they use this in the trailer. You know, so it was like I already heard it by the time you saw it. But when he said something like, you know, I'm sorry, he's my friend, and he's like, so was I. Yeah. What a great line that is! Even I mean, simple, but oh my God, it just tells a story. Oh my God! But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I mean, as much as this is Captain America's movie, the one who sells it is Robert Downey.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, first of all, you can also look at the entire cast.
Sure.
For an amazing performances, even those that didn't really have a lot in the movie. For God's sakes, Paul. God darn it! I can't remember. Yeah, Paul Rudd shows up for all of 15 minutes in the damn movie, steals his scene that he's in. Thank you very much. Jeremy Renner shows up for all of 10 minutes for the damn movie, and that little confrontation that he has with frickin' Vision was frickin' awesome. All right, yeah. Don Cheadle Don Cheadle impressed the hell out of me when they just have that one shot of his face and there's the whites when he's falling down to earth and he's like trying to be Mr. Pilot and you can see like this terror in his face, like
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's like, and again, he's in a dark room and all they're doing is running a flashlight up and down on his head and he's got to act like that. That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah. No, very true. No, yeah. The supporting cast is tremendous. And you know, it's funny you mentioned Paul Rudd because honestly, he was another one who I never really would have paid much attention to. And if somebody suggested to me years ago, oh, they should put him in a Marvel movie, I'd be like, oh, Jesus, no. Like, don't. He's a funny guy. Leave him in the rom-coms, whatever. Just like Ryan Reynolds, frankly. But boy, does he nail it with his character again. I mean, people, whoever's doing the casting for these films, they really deserve an award all their own. The casting is amazing, frankly. I mean, there's so many times when I would never have guessed it or never pictured it, but boy, do they! It just, I mean, it's like every time I doubt them, they're like, "You gonna keep doubting us?" Like they keep nailing it out of the park.
Tell me about it. You got. Scarlett Johansson in her portrayal of Black Widow. I found her to be usually on and off, but man, she was really good in this. As far as I'm concerned, she became the mediator, and she was trying to balance between the two. And she just had these moments. But one of my favorite moments is when she realized Cap was in Germany. When Cap calls her up, he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "Fine." And all of a sudden, you hears a siren going past, and she kind of looks around and realizes she heard it on the phone. They don't say it in the movie. It's just her reaction that lets you know Cap's there. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah. Very true too, and incidentally, by the way, you reminded me of another part when she shows up at the church for Peggy's funeral.
Yep.
And that's a great moment too. I mean, honestly, it was so good and so well written too, because they're talking, and I forget exactly. He said something about like, are you here to talk me out of it? Because I'm not gonna change my mind. And she's like, I know, and he's like, well, why are you here? And then she's like, because I didn't want you to be alone. And I was like, oh man, like boom! Thank you for that little tug on the heartstring. Again, it's almost like you forget that we're friends and we care about each other through all this nonsense. And by the way, I remember when I talked about Winter Soldier and I said that I didn't know if the Peggy Carter scene was necessary, and I almost felt like it was a little odd, but Here, I feel like, you know what? Now I'm starting to see where it does sort of make some sense, because now there's some poetry in the idea that it's the last of Cap's trilogy, and this is where she passes on.
Right.
And by the way, where he gets the first kiss with the niece.
A little incesty, but we can talk about that another time. That doesn't have to be included in the show.
Yeah, I mean... So, I mean, it is a little close for comfort there, but you know what? There's a logic to it, and it works. And I do think that the fact that it sort of comes full circle in this one, it does make a little sense.
Yeah,
and
also gave us that great scene where they're in the VW, where Falcon and Bucky are in the VW, and after he gets his kiss, the both of them kind of just look and nod their head and smile at the same time.
You know what? I tell you what, even those two. I thought, oh my God, when they're fighting at the airport and Spidey kind of knocks the two of them down, and I guess Bucky says something, and Falcon just goes, I hate you.
It was after he had taken Spidey out with Red Wing, and Bucky goes, well, why couldn't you have done that earlier? I hate you.
Like, I mean, how good is that? I mean, again, here's a movie too, by the way. There's the comedy in every spot works. Every time you chuckle, it's not an out of place chuckle. They just know how to. I do have some concerns about the tone of the film, but for the most part, in spots like that, I think the light, the moments of levity work. And I mean those two, like all of a sudden now we have a reason why these two bicker with each other. It's funny. I thought that was really funny.
People talk about the quips and stuff like that when it comes to the Marvel movies. I don't. Maybe it's just my age. Maybe it's appealing to my demographic. I don't know what it is, but I've never had a problem with it. I felt that. Think of it this way. I don't think any of the quips we've gotten from any of the characters have been out of character. It's not like they just forced it in there as a tension breaker. Each piece of it, Anthony Mackie saying to Bucky, "I hate you." Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Right. So, totally. Like, when they're stuck in the car, he's like, can I get any more legroom? He's like, no.
No. And Bucky just slides to the center. And like people like, and Tom Holland's like, no, what are you talking about? Tom Holland's like a 15-year-old kid in Germany fighting with a bunch of superheroes. So yeah, he's going to say stuff like, oh, you've got a metal arm? That's so cool.
What do?
We fight.
I'm just gonna say that I gave this one a 9, and I feel like it's funny. After last week, you gave it the 10, I gave it a 9, and I did say to myself, like, why am I giving these 9s? Like these are stellar films, and again, I kind of feel like the 10s are the things I would save for like the ones that break new ground. There's films that put it this way, whenever there's like a brilliant series like the Rocky series or like Raiders of the Lost Ark, we'll get a 10, spoilers. It's always the first one that I usually give the 10 because it broke ground. And I always feel like when I'm talking about episodes that are in a series like this, when they're phenomenal, they're probably going to get a 9 only for that reason, that they're not originals. And I feel like here again, I'm giving this one a 9, and probably that's not even really fair because again, I struggled to find anything significantly wrong with it. I mean, I nitpicked a couple things last week just to have something. But there's so minor. You're talking, it's like you're talking about that 9.9, you know, and you're just debating on that third digit. So anyway, yeah, I'm giving this one a 9 again. It's a stellar, phenomenal movie. It's one of those where when I know we're gonna talk about it, and I know I have to watch it again to prep for the show, I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, good. I can't wait to sit down and watch it again. I mean, and that says something. I mean, I love these movies, and I could sit down, you know, but it's not often you sit down for 2 hours straight and just watch it from beginning to end. Here, I have an excuse to do it, and I'm excited to do it. And at no point was I bored, even though I know the story. I'm riveted the entire time. So, like I said, I have some things I'm going to bring out, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find anything wrong with it, and it's just a brilliant film, and it's a 9 point, who knows what, but I'll leave it at a 9.
You silly little man. I also gave it a 9. Here's the thing. Using your own words against you. The reason that Captain America Winter Soldier got a 10 is because it did break new grounds. Comic book movies at that point never had anything like that. If you took the character of Captain America out that and say put in James Bond or Jason Bourne or something like that, you could have probably made it work. You know, hell, frickin' Mission Impossible does that all the time. This was a comic book movie. Winter Soldier was a comic book movie. And this was taking that, real-worlding it, twisting your expectations, and doing things that, you know, this was to me, Captain America Winter Soldier was to the people of the world who think that these other things are comic book movies. Yes, they are. But you want to know something? This is also a comic book movie because this is other elements that comic books deal with. People have this preconceived notion about comic books, and it was Winter Soldier that, to me, demonstrated, no, we're more than that. And people who haven't read comic books don't realize that, but people who have, know. That's why I give Winter Soldier such props, why I gave it a 10. This one gets a 9, only because I managed to find a flaw, but we'll get to that in a minute. Or else it would have gotten a 10. It absolutely, positively would have gotten a 10. But the flaw that I found is just, it's one of those things that's like, you know what? I can't concede this particular point. You know, even if I can justify it in my mind, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm going off on the rails too soon. But as far as I'm concerned, if this, you know, this is now, as far as, this is the template for movies. If you're going to have your superheroes conflict, this is the template that people are going to follow forever. And it should.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this one really hits new heights that, frankly, honestly, as I'm watching, I'm saying to myself, again, which is the better film, this one or Winter Soldier? Well, and first of all, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. It does break new ground. That is absolutely true. When I compare the two together, there is a part of me that says, look, Winter Soldier is probably, on one level, it is the superior film because it really does stay true to one vision. You know, it really does have one story that it is telling from start to finish, and it does not waver off track at all. And it is such a perfectly structured film. I mean, everything about it absolutely positively works. This one, I feel like is right up there, but is much more ambitious in its storytelling than it's probably it's almost willing to veer off from perfection storytelling wise to try to do more, and it delivers more. So it's almost like that's kind of where the dilemma is, I find, you know, in which one I find is better. This one I find to be a little more ambitious, yet does not stay within a specific structure the way the last one did.
Right.
And again, story-wise, this one, it sets out exactly what it's setting out to do. So in that respect, I'm not dinging it at all. But again, but I do feel that Winter Soldier does have almost a perfect, like there's that term they used to throw around in film class called mise-en-scène, where it was like, you know, where it's the style, you know, the overall style, whatever, that whole political thriller style that it sort of comes up with in Winter Soldier, just it never breaks from that. And it's just perfect the way it works. This one, it's throwing everything at you, including the kitchen sink. And again, it makes it for a ride that is just nothing but fun, and still the story is still intact. But again, it's a different animal than Winter Soldier.
It's quite frankly amazing that it stays intact. There is a lot of balls that they're throwing up in the air and juggling, and somehow, it's hard to find a ball that like dropped in such a dramatic way that you can ding it for it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that in itself is amazing. I mean, that's why this film is an amazing achievement, and I really feel like, again, it's funny because we are months away from Infinity Wars,
right?
And I almost feel like this was sort of this was the exhibition bout before the championship. I feel like the championship battle is coming, and this was sort of the warm up. This was the AAA championships or something. Again, you had. I mean, how many times in comics did you couldn't wait to see the big giant battles between, the superheroes and, sometimes it's superheroes versus superheroes and sometimes it's superheroes versus supervillains, whatever. This was the first time on screen you got a real full blown just superhero battle. And wow, does it deliver. I mean, everything about that fight is just phenomenal. And not... and again, it does not sacrifice story in order to do that. It just works perfectly.
100%. 100% agreed with you there, man. All right, Joe. Well, then I'm going to say it. Who asked you?
Okay. Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll go first because it sounds like you've got a lot more on your plate on this one.
Okay.
My Who Asked You is very simple. It's Zemo's plan. Zemo's plan relies way too much on everyone doing exactly what he's predicted in a predictable way. I mean, I get it. I'm sure that as he went along, he adjusted, he modified, and everything like that. They kind of alluded to that earlier in the movie. But if you break down Zemo's plan, it really, really is hoping for a lot of different things. I mean, before they even announced the Sokovia Accords, he had started executing the plan, and then he kind of incorporated that into the plan, and then he blew up frickin' Black Panther's father into the plan, which, by the way, neither of us talked about Chadwick Boseman's portrayal as T'Challa and the Black Panther.
Oh, right. Yeah, boy, was he... Oh, man, was he good.
And the whole reason we were doing this series is because, here he is, he's introduced, and next week we're going to be reviewing that movie, but we'll get to that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, his plan relies a lot. If you sit and you think about it and think about it too much, you can kind of see how it comes together. But let's face it, a lot of Zemo's plan relied on luck. And not quite, Lex Luthor's plan to get Batman versus Superman, but, still, it's tiny, it's petty. I know I'm being petty. It's the only weakness I can think of.
No, that's it. Listen, that is a fine point. I don't find that to be petty at all. It's funny as you're saying that, I'm having flashbacks of Spectre, where if you actually, I mean, when you go through his plan and you really start to go step by step, it's like, well, wait, what? I don't know. This one, I would not put in that camp, but I would not say it was as far fetched. And you're kind of making me go back and think about it. I mean, he did basically. For him to execute his plan, he would also need like a borderline Tony Stark level of resources to get back and forth to that Siberian prison and back down here to wherever, I guess DC, to where they were keeping the Winter Soldier and whatever. That's true too, and plus his whole plan was to basically impersonate the head shrinker because he's assuming he's going to be the only one left with the Winter Soldier.
Right.
So his plan was to just keep setting the Winter Soldier free and getting him in trouble to sort of pull Captain America out to have to keep defending him, I guess. Yeah, I mean that is kind of
it's a little convoluted. But you know what? It's okay.
At least it's
okay.
focused. But it is focused. It does seem to be. He does seem focused enough. Like, basically, his plan is really focused on the Winter Soldier to just sort of keep him in the spotlight, keep him getting into trouble. Whether it's planting bombs and blaming him, or whether it's actually using his code words and setting him loose. At least his plan is sort of focused, if I'm understanding it correctly anyway. But you're right, but all points do need to converge in that prison.
Yeah, or, I'm sure... I'm sure if the directors were here, will say, no, well, Zemo had a plan B and a plan C and so on and so forth. It's like, and that's great. And I don't doubt that at all. And even if he had like a plan, I'm sure that like the end result was not exactly the direction he was going to, but he got the end result. I have no doubt. The military will be the first one to tell you that no plan survives initial meeting with the enemy.
Right.
So
my favorite quote is by Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until I get punched in the face.
And I'm sure that was what happened here. And because the focus of the movie had to be on the emotional side of it with Tony and with Steve, we really couldn't see or know fully what his plan was. Not to mention the fact that when the reveal was, oh no, I just got this video to show you, Mr. Tony Stark, after driving the two of you against each other. Here, watch this little video. Which is, you break it down, that's what the plan is. But my point is, if we had focused on his plan, the gut punch of that scene would have been lost. Right. So I understand why they did it, but it does make Zemo's plan look a little bit too coinky-dinky.
Captain, you seem a little defensive. Well, it's been a long day.
If we can't accept limitations, we're no better than bad guys.
That's not the way I see it.
Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
I've got two. The first one is, I don't quite understand why Rhodey breaks his back when he falls. I feel like I've seen Tony drop out of the sky 5 or 6 times, and because he's wearing the armor, he just gets up like nothing happened. Even in the very first armor that he comes out of the cave with, he flies off and sort of crash lands in the dirt.
Right, but he first of all, in the first one, he crash landed in sand, which is softer than dirt, and he was also not as high in the sky as Rhodey was. Rhodey was much higher in the sky. He fell much longer. Tony was maybe 200 or 300 feet in the sky when he hit the ground. Yeah, it still sort of hurt him. You're absolutely right about that. But
even still, we've seen in the first Iron Man, we saw him get basically flying around and get blasted by a tank, which blasted him out of the sky, boom, and he lands just face down.
Yeah.
And again, but the armor, we assume, protects him. So I kind of felt like in this one, I'm watching this, I'm saying, why isn't there contingency for, I feel like I've seen Iron Man fall enough times that seeing Rhodey fall and crash isn't a big deal, I would think.
I took it as there's something, because the armor just didn't fail. What happened was the power went out. He took out the arc reactor in his chest, which means the power was out. My feeling has always been that the reason why the crash happened the way it did was there was enough countermeasures in the system to be able to survive the impact of a crash, but it depends upon how he landed. If he landed and there's no power in the system, there's nothing in the system to keep it rigid. So for all we know, he landed, and if you're looking at the screen, like he lands with the countermeasure systems, and he lands like that. But without them, then the entire body is loose, and based on the weight of the thing, he could literally land and like basically crumple into himself from the impact, because there's no power to the system keeping the armor from allowing that to happen. Do you see what I'm saying?
I suppose.
A stretch. I'm conceding that you're absolutely right. It does seem kind of odd. I'm just saying that a part of me can almost come up with a crazy scientific reason as to why.
Or at least that's how they're pitching it, where because the arc reactor goes out.
It's taken out.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I guess I'll buy it. That makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I felt like when I've seen him fall in the past, again, my interpretation was always that, like, look, like, let's say, like, the joint at the elbow, right?
Right.
It's designed that it'll never go beyond where the elbow is supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? And for that reason, like, if he, even if there's a shock or whatever, it's not going to send his neck where it's not supposed to go. It's not going to send his arms or legs where they're not supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to turn your spine where it's not supposed to go, because it's designed, as long as the metal is intact, and there's no reason why a fall like that shouldn't. That is sort of how I've always read it. But you know what? Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, you are talking about a high enough. Yeah. So all right, I'll meet you halfway with that one. That's pretty much all I got for that one. But yeah, I did have another one.
Hit me.
I did have a question about the overall tone of the film, specifically when it comes to Spider-Man.
Okay.
Again, loved seeing Spider-Man in this film. When it was happening and it was like, oh my God, are we really going to get a Spider-Man in the MCU? We couldn't believe it. And he was going to make an appearance in Civil War. Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. As I'm looking back on it, I'm saying to myself, does it cause and again, I talked about how Winter Soldier had a tone that stayed incredibly consistent throughout the whole film. Here, it all of a sudden, like in the middle of in the heat of everything, right? And I know that Tony, he makes a point. He goes, we need people. We're running out of people on our side. So he's gonna recruit. Okay. Then you cut to this scene where he's in Queens and he's sitting there eating date nut bread with Aunt May and hitting on her and joking around with Peter Parker. It really does kind of take you out because, again, I talked before about how Tony's on this arc. He's stressed. He's really not himself. He's struggling. But then you cut to this scene and it's kind of like just regular old Tony Stark. Talking to a kid and sort of being his old self and having a good time or whatever. And even when Spider-Man shows up, it's almost like, he shows up and he's like, Spidey's talking and Iron Man's sort of looking over at him. Then he has to cut back to Cap and he's super back stressed out again. You know what I mean? Like he's like you're an idiot. You're breaking up the team and and it's like, all right. I mean, and Stark is a smart guy. So I know he can compartmentalize. I know that he can kind of like, be nice to you and then focus on the problem over here.
Right.
All right. But I did say to myself, like, as I'm watching it again, it does seem sort of like the tone just sort of gets a little, I don't know, to the point where I'm almost saying to myself, well, having already had Spider-Man Homecoming, which of course we both loved, maybe you wait on Spider-Man because now because we don't want to break the serious tension of this scene here. I don't know. Like I said, and I'm talking in hindsight gives me a lot of luxury now to be able to make that call. To say, now that I've had Homecoming, now that I've seen such a great Spider-Man, could we have just waited a little longer? I mean, at the time, I probably would have been chomping at the bit. No, you got to get, if you can get Spider-Man, get Spider-Man. And I'm wondering now, would letting Spider-Man wait a little longer, would that have been the way to go? I don't know. But I do say I do notice the changes in tones a little bit, and like I said, not a huge ding, but I notice it.
All right, I can. You know what? I can't fault you that, dude, because you're right. There was kind of a brief tonal moment that changed when he appeared. That kind of like did quickly derail the tension that had been building in the scene, but. I can't think it as hard as you can, to be honest with you.
I'm not thinking it hard. I'm not thinking it hard.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. It's like you're not thinking it hard at all, and I'm just pointing out that like I get what you're saying, and I'm thinking it even less for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, and again, like I said before, the hindsight is it's very easy now to say, I could have waited a couple months for Spider-Man, but of course back then. You could not wait to get Spider-Man in the MCU.
No, we would have been waiting another year at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about for your consideration?
For your consideration, the airport fight is the fight that we have been waiting to see since we were kids. Since we were youngins and we read comic books. We wanted to see the big battle on screen with all the superheroes fighting it out, whatever, and we got it. I mean, that was just tremendous. It was. And this is what like I said before, we're throwing everything at it but the kitchen sink. They pull Ant-Man into it. They pull Spider-Man into it. I mean, everybody's pulling every trick they got out of their hats. I mean, this was just I can't remember such a fun time at the movies as I did watching this one. I mean, watching this fight. And again, this is not even the big emotional punch fight that comes later. This is just the fun over the top comic book fight. And I really have to just hand it to them. They really did. And man, oh man, you watched, man, I hate to Batman v Superman. I mean, all I can see is CGI and when these fights are happening, I'm watching this fight here. I'm watching a guy become 50 feet tall. I'm watching another guy. I'm watching another one. He's becoming 2 inches tall. Or not even. I'm watching all this crazy stuff happen, and I am not at all thinking about CGI. I'm really not. I mean, the effects are just spot on. So I mean, they put all the time and effort into that to do it right, and it shows.
I completely agree with you. That is the culmination not only of these movies, but of a lifetime of nerddom,
right,
and asking and praying. I never thought I would see the day, Joe. I never thought I would see the day.
Yeah. I mean, and I almost feel like, as genius as this film works on so many levels, we talked about the arcs of the two characters making the perfect conflict that works on multiple levels. I almost feel like it's superfluous to even talk about the airport fight and just to say, oh my God, it was great. But you know what? Oh my God, it was great. I mean, it was just that good, and I have to just hats off to it.
100%. I completely agree with you. I will take that scene over any action scene in the past 5 years. Absolutely.
All right, my friend, you're up.
This one's going to be a little bit surprising to you, but maybe not so much. Because actually, surprisingly, you brought it up earlier.
Okay.
All right? I was actually kind of impressed. I was like, oh my God, he's going to think I'm stealing. But nope. Here it is. For your consideration, Sarah Lynn Finn.
Exactly how do you mean that, sir?
Since 2006, Sarah Lynn Finn has been the main casting director for each of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films.
Ah, okay.
Every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film, she cast them.
Okay.
This movie is the culmination of all those casting decisions, and as far as I'm concerned, it proves she knew what the hell she was doing.
Amen.
So hats off to you, lady.
I 1,000% agree. That's a good one. That is a really good one.
Yep. As I was watching the closing credits, I saw it's like casting director Sarah Lynn Finn, and I paused it. It's like writing that fucking name down right now. That's
perfect.
Who's gonna get it? Because seriously, and this movie added characters, for God's sakes. In the span of 5 minutes, we're introduced to T'Chaka and T'Challa, father and son. You buy the Bond. You bought the Bond in 3 minutes.
Seriously.
3 minutes. And then you bought the sadness from Chadwick Boseman when his father is dead, right there and then. And then Chadwick Boseman as freaking Black Panther. Just forget it. Done.
Yes.
Here's two characters introduced into this movie, and both knocked it out of the park for their parts, as far as I'm concerned. So
yes. Completely agree. And incidentally, by the way, you're right. We barely grazed on the Black Panther, but even the Black Panther casting phenomenal. He was great in this, and his arc, he gets an arc because he's the one at the end who says, "Everybody's consumed by vengeance. I'm through being consumed with mine." Boom. That's it right there. Everybody comes off. I mean, everybody gets such a good representation in this film. Not one person. It's there's so many movies where you barely understand the motivation of main characters, much less all of these second and third tier characters.
Oh yeah, every single person in this movie has their moment to shine. Vision, for God's sake, trying to make paprikash for Wanda was such a lovely little scene, and it's just a little scene. And this is the brilliance of these movies. They do not forget that these are living, breathing people, and they give them their moments to be living, breathing people.
It's tremendous.
Okay, we definitely have to start moving away from the Marvel movies because people are going to think that we are just that. By the way, just so people know, we did not get a paycheck from Disney, right? It's not how it works.
Yeah.
We're just two old geeks who've been waiting for these type of movies for years, and right now, Marvel's getting them more right than anybody else.
If you're concerned we're in Disney's pocket, ask us about The Last Jedi.
Good point. Excellent point. That's true. Hey, that's kind of cool. That gives us credibility. But yes, to get to the point, ladies and gentlemen, next week we will be reviewing Black Panther.
Can't wait.
But until next week, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, I salute you as always.
Back at you, my friend. I'll see you here next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.